show up and then turn up. We 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 show up and then turn up.
What's up, guys? I'm Landon from Shoeware, and today we're putting the newest models from Paul George and Kyrie Irving's shoe lines with Nike head-to-head to see how they compare. So, really quick, if this is your first time checking us out, feel free to drop a follow or subscribe wherever you're watching and give this video a like. We would greatly appreciate that. But, starting off with the box and the price, the PG5 comes in an all-gray box with kind of a camo design that does show up in a small patch on the shoes as well. And then the Kyrie 7s come in sort of a matte black box with his player logo kind of centered on top. But looking at the prices, the PG5 retails for the low price of $110, and the Kyries aren't much higher at $130. So you have to like the cost for both of these two shoes.
You can't play a player, baby. That's just how the game goes. All I'm focused.
So looking at the design for both of these shoes and starting off with the colorways, today we're checking out the Nike PG5 Daughters versus the Kyrie 7 Weatherman. So, two pretty vibrant color schemes with like the yellow, pink, and green on the PG5. And then Kyrie's colorway is actually kind of a play off of Kevin Durant's line when he released the Weatherman color scheme years ago. So, the green is meant to resemble like a green screen used in forecasting the weather. And then the orange and like the red kind of represents a heat map. So, the details on those are pretty cool. But focusing on the look for both of these models, starting off with the Kyrie 7, you'll see that Nike took the strap off of this year's design after having it on the Kyrie 6. And I would have preferred for them to leave it. I just think that the strap gives a nice added touch. But you do have 4 lace locks up on the around the lacing system on the shoes, which is going to make the number 11, which is a number that Kyrie wears on the court when he's actually out there playing. I know that he isn't right now, but you also had that kind of Illuminati design with the eyes on the back, which is a pretty cool design. But switching it to the PG5s, Nike took away the zipper that ran up the middle of the PG4s, which was kind of a weird concept at first, but it actually kind of grew on me, so I do miss that part. But I do like how the pink design on the upper kind of does match that camo pattern from the box, like I said. So the overlays are pretty nice too. So 2 pretty clean designs. I honestly did like last year's model for both of these shoe lines better than this year, just from like an appearance perspective, but it's still not bad.
You can't play a player, baby. That's just how the game goes. All I'm focused.
All right, so for the last half of this review, I'll cover more of the materials and the performance side for both of these shoes and just kind of test how they hold up on the court. So starting off with cushioning, the PG5 uses a full-length Air Dot Strobel that is just super comfy. These shoes pretty much just feel like you're walking on a cloud, which makes sense because that is in fact what Nike kind of puts in their bio about the PG5. So, definitely a really bouncy feel. And then for the Kyrie 7s, I wouldn't say these feel quite as soft, but they do feature a large Air Zoom turbo unit in the forefoot, like the front portion of the shoe. And, it is curved to kind of bend in multiple directions, and it is labeled there in that lime green section as well. So you can honestly feel that unit just at work right away. It does deliver a nice and responsive feel, but, like I said, the cushion is pretty noticeable in the front half of the Kyrie 7, which kind of makes them feel like they're lacking a little bit in the heel, just kind of compared to the PG5.
You can't play a player, baby. That's just how the game goes. All I'm focused.
So moving to the upper, the PG5s don't have a lot, or I guess any really premium touches on there. You can tell that the textiles on top, they're pretty cheap, but there are some TPU overlays that are going to end up giving you a really secure feel. And the white patches that kind of extend up from the midsole, those are going to keep your foot in the shoe so you won't slide out. And honestly, I was just really impressed at how well the support ended up being and like feeling with the cost of the shoe and like the materials used on the PG5. And that's pretty consistent with how the Kyrie 7s work too. Not a lot of high quality stuff used on the upper. They even use less materials in general since they took that strap away, but you can say the same thing with that zipper on the PG5. But still a really solid lateral containment with no real movement for your foot whenever you're playing. So definitely a nice surprise on those categories for both of these shoes.
You can't play a player, baby. That's just how the game goes. All I'm focused.
Finishing off with traction, these shoes have been pretty close up until this point, but the PG5 really starts to create some separation here. So the PG5 uses the same exact traction pattern from the Kobe 9, and these just absolutely kill it on the court. So the design is cool too because it somewhat resembles a human foot, but this setup just grips the floor so nice. It's kind of a toss-up between traction and cushion for what the selling point is on the PG5, but you know, honestly, it's probably traction. And then looking at the Kyrie 7, I think Nike kind of dropped the ball on this one. These do feature a computer-generated traction pattern that was designed to give you multi-directional coverage. And, you know, I guess sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. There were a little few too many like inconsistencies whenever I played in these. Like it'd be great, and then I just kind of slip out of nowhere. So this is definitely a shoe that you'll want to keep clean to avoid that as much as possible. And then for sizing, both of these shoes do have a true to size fit, maybe running on a little narrow side for both. And then, you know, both shoes are super light too, which is going to be a plus. So for the final ratings, I honestly like the look of last year's models for like both the Paul George and Kyrie's shoe lines better. So I'm just going to leave that section as a tie. And then moving on to cushioning, although the Kyrie 7s have that air zoom unit in the forefoot, just the entire PG5 is just a really soft shoe. I mean, the cushion could easily be the main attraction for this shoe. I just can't really say that for the Kyrie 7. And then for materials, both of these shoes have some pretty like generic textiles going on, you know, with no like standout high quality stuff. So I'm just going to leave that as a tie. But, you know, they don't really let that affect the support, which sometimes can happen because the PG5 has a few pieces on there that lock your foot in, and they just have an outrigger or two that just adds to the balance. And then for the Kyrie 7, it's just also a super nice shoe as far as like lateral containment goes. Kyrie's like a really shifty player on the court and makes like some quick and hard movements. So support's always going to be kind of a key factor in his shoe line. So support ends in a tie too. But for the traction, that's going to be where the PG5 officially pulls away. You know, it's one of my favorite traction patterns because it really has you covered on every single move, it feels like. While the Kyrie 7s just didn't really go with any traditional traction setup. They used a computer generated design. Like I said, I wasn't really all that impressed. So the PG5 is going to come out on top for this performance battle. So, you know, the PG5 is one of those shoes that just really doesn't have a major flaw. The cushion and the traction are top tier, and the materials are more of a product of the low price. So the support honestly still holds up with it too. So just an all around good shoe. But just in case you want a little more of an in-depth review on both of these shoes, we do have individual reviews live where I go a little deeper into these models. So feel free to check that out. And then if you're interested in purchasing one or both of these shoes, just go ahead and check out the links in the description below. But that wraps up this performance battle. Until next review, I'm Landon from Shoeware. Peace.
Ay, you can't play a player, baby, that's just how the game goes. All I'm focused on is winning, real love and bankroll.